Hello and welcome to another edition of Foreign Dispatches, the program that takes you around the world. I'm Tenyola Shoboale. On the program this week, civilians evacuated from Mariupol steelworks after weeks underground. Plus, we check in on the situation in China as officials battle the latest COVID outbreak in Shanghai and Beijing. Dozens of civilians evacuated from the besieged city of Mariupol made their way to the relative safety of a Ukrainian-held town this week. Among them were several people who had sheltered in bunkers beneath the massive Azovstal steelworks for months. It's the first time a humanitarian corridor has been successfully agreed to get them out of the steel plant.
After weeks of cowering in the ruins of a steelworks in Russian-occupied Mariupol, buses carrying evacuees reached the safety of Zaporizhia on Tuesday. The United Nations says about 101 people had been able to leave the bunkers underneath the Azovstal steelworks, which had become a refuge for both civilians and Ukrainian fighters as Moscow laid siege to Mariupol. Many had not seen daylight in 2 months. One evacuee said she feared she would die in the basement and that no one would save them.
At
one point, we were told that our bomb shelter wouldn't withstand a direct hit, that we would be buried alive there, that there would be a mass grave, and we were perfectly aware that there was no one to rescue us.
The evacuation came a day after Russian forces resumed firing rockets at the besieged city's encircled steelworks. The attack followed a UN-brokered ceasefire around the steelworks to allow civilians to escape, but officials say 200 civilians are still trapped in bunkers and tunnels under the complex. Mariupol is a major target for Russia as it seeks to cut Ukraine off from the Black Sea and connect Russian-controlled territory in the south and east. Many have left the city, but officials say 100,000 remain. Some, like 64-year-old Tatiana, say they have nowhere to go.
You wake up in the morning and you cry. I don't know where to go at all. I have nowhere else to go. Of course, it's scary. It does not stop. I don't know how I'll live here. We don't have a roof, don't have windows. Everything is very complicated.
2 months of bombardment and siege by Russian forces have reduced the once thriving city of Mariupol to a wasteland. It has seen the bloodiest fighting and worst humanitarian catastrophe of the war. Moscow's focus has shifted to the south and east of Ukraine after abandoning an assault on Kiev at the end of March. Russia's defense ministry said on Tuesday that it had struck a military airfield near Odessa, destroying weaponry supplied by the United States and its European allies. They also said they had struck various military targets across Ukraine, including command centers and an anti-aircraft missile system. Russia calls its actions a special operation to disarm Ukraine and protect it from fascists. Ukraine and its Western allies call that a baseless pretext for a war of aggression.
And in the city of Chernihiv, residents have started picking up the pieces and rebuilding their lives after suffering from heavy Russian military activity. Russian forces sharply scaled back their military activity in the area in late March, leaving behind destroyed houses and structures around Chernihiv, northeast of the capital, Kyiv.
In the city of Chernihiv, residents have begun clearing debris from their homes in a bid to rebuild their lives after suffering from heavy Russian military activity. Houses and structures in the city, around 100 miles northeast of Kyiv, were destroyed from heavy shelling. For 77-year-old Anna Sullivan, this will be an uphill journey. She has no family left, except a grandchild that pays her visits. The roof of her small home was entirely destroyed by airstrikes, and she is now slowly clearing her home, one small trolley at a time.
There's nothing left. Everything was destroyed. One woman said to me, "You're a strong woman. You can overcome this." But the truth is, I can't. I can't overcome this. It's hard to be strong when you're alone.
Over a month of fighting has wrought devastation in Chernihiv, a city with a pre-war population of around 290,000. Chernihiv was the first city the invading forces hit after pushing south from Belarus towards Kiev on February 24th. Early in the war, they encircled the city and destroyed a bridge over the Desna River that left it surrounded. For 3 weeks, officials say Chernihiv had no electricity, no water, and no communication. Some of its suburbs became battle zones.
For Ukrainian soldiers on the eastern front lines, the sound of shelling has become an all-too-familiar noise as Russian forces press on with their offensive. Russian forces have turned their focus towards Ukraine's east and south after failing to capture the capital.
Yavir, a 25-year-old squadron leader based in Ukraine's Zaporizhia region, says their position are under constant bombardment day and night.
Every day there is shelling and artillery training. We wake up not to the sound of an alarm clock, but to the sound of shelling. They reach here and even further. This happens every day and every night. Now there's an incredibly rare calm. The Russians are afraid, but there are many more of them than us in this area.
Russian forces have turned their focus towards Ukraine's east and south after failing to capture the capital in a 9-week assault that has turned cities to rubble, killed thousands, and forced 5 million Ukrainians to flee abroad. Ukraine has received billions of dollars of military aid, but Yavir says they need more heavy weaponry to hold off the Russian advance. Artillery base captain Vitaly admits the Ukrainians have had losses, but says they will hold the line to try and halt the Russian advance.
Yes, they have been losses. I cannot disclose any particular information about the losses, but unfortunately it has been happening, and we mourn about that. This position is being held to keep Russian occupation forces from any move forward. This is the main idea.
UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, addressing the Ukrainian parliament this week, announced a further £300 million in military aid to Ukraine, including electronic warfare equipment and a counter-battery radar system.
As you turned the Russian army back from the gates of Kiev, you not only accomplished one of the greatest feats of arms of the 21st century, you achieved something deeper and perhaps equally significant. You exposed the historic folly that Putin has made. I can announce today from the UK government a new package of support totaling £300 million, including radars to pinpoint the artillery bombarding your cities, heavy lift drones to supply your forces, and thousands of night vision devices. We will carry on supplying Ukraine alongside your other friends with weapons, funding, and humanitarian aid until we have achieved our long-term goal, which must be so to fortify Ukraine that no one will ever dare attack you again.
Ukraine has acknowledged losing control of some eastern towns and villages, but says Moscow's gains have come at a heavy cost to Russian forces.
Away from the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Beijing this week shut scores of metro stations and extended COVID-19 curbs on many public venues, focusing efforts to avoid the fate of Shanghai, where millions have been under strict lockdown for more than a month. With dozens of new cases a day, Beijing is hoping mass testing will find and isolate the virus before it spreads. 12 of 16 city districts held the second of 3 rounds of tests this week. Meanwhile, Shanghai faced a slight setback in its COVID battle on Monday as new infections were reported outside lockdown areas.
Reports of new COVID-19 cases outside of Shanghai's lockdown area could spell a setback for the city's battle against infections. Authorities reported 58 new cases on Monday, May 2nd, after 2 days of no new confirmed cases outside quarantined areas over the weekend. However, other data showed encouraging trends, with overall local cases down to 6,804 from 7,189 the previous day. Despite the drop in infections, more fences were erected at some residential blocks in Shanghai on Monday. Tough coronavirus measures in Shanghai have stirred rare public anger, with millions of the city's 25 million people stuck indoors for more than a month, some sealed inside fenced-off residential compounds, and many struggling to secure daily necessities. Meanwhile, in Beijing, authorities pressed on with testing millions of people on May Day holiday.
I am worried about the situation, but there's nothing to do about it. I just wonder how long is this situation going to last, and what will the economic consequences be?
Indeed, we did have to make some changes to our plans for the holidays. Many indoor activities have been cancelled due to safety concerns. But the pandemic has been going on for about 2 years already. My friends and I somehow already expected something like this to happen, so we would consider all circumstances.
Authorities have postponed school reopening for at least 1 week after the holiday. Beijing's new daily cases have been relatively steady since the first infections in the capital emerged on April 22nd, with a total of 62 detected on May 2nd. China's zero-COVID policy is increasingly out of step with the rest of the world, where many governments have eased restrictions or thrown them off altogether with the goal of living with COVID.
Well, research is still continuing into technological innovations that help people fight the coronavirus pandemic. And in Hong Kong, a team of researchers have come up with a solution to curb the spread of the coronavirus in public places. Take a look.
The innovative solution involves utilizing 3D printing technology to curb the spread of the coronavirus in public places, which is to replace facilities that people touch the most with antivirus ones.
In this project, we are mainly focused on the item that people will frequently touch it. For example, like the door handle or like the lift button. And they have so many different designs in the market.
The team has created an antimicrobial coating that can mix with 3D printed materials, allowing them to make antivirus objects of almost any size and shape. To make sure the effect does not wear off over time, all the products are given a series of tough stress tests.
No matter we use the sandpaper or we use the bleaching agent, if they cannot affect the antimicrobial effect.
The researchers are working with local airport authorities, property developers and government offices to put their products into use, so as to stem infection of COVID-19 and other contagious diseases.
After we end the pandemics, the flu virus and common bacteria, we can all help to control. So I hope that it will be beneficial to most people in the world.
At the same time, a cross-disciplinary team at the University of Hong Kong has developed a sewage sampling robot that may revolutionize the way health authorities track COVID-19 transmissions. It can automatically collect materials from the sewers for analysis after being hung underneath a manhole.
The sewage surveillance can help us to identify those areas with the hidden cases and covered infected person, and for the government to take some further actions.
The Environmental Protection Department and the Drainage Services Department of the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region Government, in collaboration with the team of the University of Hong Kong, have strengthened the sampling of sewage in all districts of Hong Kong for COVID-19 virus tests. The innovations come as Hong Kong is showing signs of recovery from its worst wave of COVID-19 infections, which peaked in March.
When Foreign Dispatches returns in just a moment, we'll meet a South African farmer on a mission to turn the country's shopping mall rooftops into vegetable farms. More details in a moment. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us on Foreign Dispatches. Malnourished children are flooding into hospitals in the Ethiopian city of Gode as the worst drought for 40 years has forced many families to leave their homes to search for aid. According to the United Nations World Food Programme, the Horn of Africa region is facing the driest conditions in more than 4 decades after 3 consecutive rainy seasons failed.
At a pediatric ward in Gode, mothers cradle their malnourished children. The hospital in Ethiopia's Somali region has seen an increasing influx of starving kids, victims of the worst drought to hit the country in 40 years. Pediatrician Mohammed Amin says numbers started to spike around 5 months ago.
There is an increase in number, and there is, due to the increase in number and due to the droughts which are available in our area, are some of the causes we are seeing. And even we consider that there is in one family, there are 2 or 3 children coming together.
Amin says they've treated 140 malnourished children and that 4 have died. On Tuesday, April 26, the UN's aid chief Martin Griffiths warned that close to 2 million children are at risk of starving to death in the Horn of Africa region. Many families like Nima Mohammed's have left their home to seek aid. She's staying in a camp and says adults go without food so that the children can eat once a day.
I have 9 children. I had a home and property just like everyone. I'm 9 months pregnant, and if I give birth tonight, this is where I'll be sleeping. Things are tough here. This is where we live, 11 people, and we're in this situation because of the drought.
More than 10,000 people are getting aid in the Somali region. The World Food Programme says 7.2 million across Ethiopia are food insecure, an increase of 2 million over the last 2 months.
With 7.2 million people food insecure in Ethiopia, this has already increased by 2 million people over the last 2 months. And we're looking at millions more falling into a severe, deep hunger crisis. We know that over a quarter of children are suffering malnourishment, and over a third of pregnant and breastfeeding women are severely malnourished because of this drought. So it's essential that we get nutritionally fortified foods to them right now before it's too late.
The WFP says the Horn of Africa is facing its driest conditions in more than 4 decades. That's after 3 consecutive rainy seasons failed. The organization says 15 million people need food aid across the region, a figure that could rise to 20 million by the end of the year. UNICEF Executive Director Catherine Russell urges the international community to immediately scale up support to avert a humanitarian catastrophe.
Here in the Horn of Africa, where the consequences of a severe drought and 3 years of poor rains are really having a terrible impact on children. We're estimating 10 million children are in need of life-saving support. And at this point, 1.7 million children are requiring something we call, they have severe acute malnutrition, which is the most serious form of malnutrition, and we're treating them and treating as many as we can. The challenge here is that the needs are so much greater than what we're able to address at this point. And we don't know yet how bad it's going to get, but we do know for sure that many children are already suffering, are very much in need. Their mothers are in need, and you can see it when you talk to them. The mothers are so concerned, worried about what's happening to their children. But you know, we need more resources. We need to get more feeding to these children if we want to really avert a very serious and terrible problem here.
It's not only malnutrition and disease that are threatening the lives of children. UNICEF says over 600,000 children in drought-hit regions have dropped out of school as a result of the drought. Schools have shut due to lack of water, and many children drop out because they have to travel long distances in search of food and water, or to look after other children while their caregivers try and find water for their families and cattle.
Over in South Africa, 30-year-old Zandile Khumalo, a hydroponic farmer, is on a mission to turn South Africa's shopping mall rooftops into vegetable farms. It's a dream that started a few years ago on a 2,000 square meter backyard space at her family's home. Now the industrial chemistry graduate is growing vegetables for sale on a hydroponic, and she supplies her clients fresh produce on the day of use, cutting down shelf life and retaining freshness.
A 300 square meter rooftop farm. That's what 30-year-old Zandile Khumalo has turned the top of the Morningside shopping center in Sandton to. She says agriculture is something she's always loved.
I started as a consultant back in 2016, and therefore the passion then grew into having my own farm in 2019. The motivation of it is to be able to give fresh vegetables to our people, our communities, and be able for the restaurants to be able to serve fresh lettuce. The greatness of its taste, the value of its long life shelf when it's there in their fridges.
She grows a variety of fresh vegetables like baby spinach, tomatoes, lettuce, and other salad veggies, and is able to sell about 400 heads of lettuce a week.
How everything starts at hydroponics starts at seedlings in the farm. So we do the whole entire value chain because we are small. Basically, we're a small company. We've got just one tunnel and just supplying about 400 lettuces a week.
Zandile tries to cut down shelf life by supplying her clients on the day of use. That's part of her business model, for which she has very big dreams that require an investment injection of about 10 million rands for things like modern greenhouses as well as proper pack houses.
So this whole rooftop is the first pilot stage. This is the first phase for the pilot stage, of which is a 300 square meter tunnel that we've got with the systems inside. Therefore, once we've all filled up the entire rooftop, we've got 9 shopping mall centers throughout the country to be able to build on those and be able to bring much more vegetables closer to their market too.
Are you making profit?
So profit for us, it's in the farming industry, it depends on how your market is. If you are to plant what is needed by that market, by that location, it makes your life much more easier for you to actually see profits out of what you're planting for the people.
We joined Zandile for a fresh harvest for delivery. The order is a crate of lettuce for the Hussar Grill, one of the restaurants she supplies below inside the shopping center.
It's very, very convenient. That's the best thing to do. Anytime I need something, she's there in a dash speed. I'm very, very happy with her products. Every time we get things from her, it's very, very fresh, and we can't complain. Since we have used her, we have never had any complaints, and our clients are very happy with the products from Zandile.
South Africa being a water-scarce country, hydroponics, which also makes room for recycled water, may just be one of the solutions. But how organic or close to it can hydroponics grown produce be?
Organic is defined as using soil. Because we are soilless farming, we prefer to call ourselves natural farmers, because everything that we use, it comes from natural grown things. So we use cocoa peat coming from coconut husk. Our seeds are not GMO, so we are able to germinate from the coconut husk, making us natural. We depend on natural sunlight.
With the 4th Industrial Revolution in mind, Zandile emphasizes the importance of introducing technology-driven agriculture to the young generation.
In our country, I believe that we need to enhance the teaching ways that we give to our youngsters. As the country is moving into the 4IR and the technology is developing in a much more greater manner. So if they are able to innovate much more younger and we're able to assist them as a country and enhance them and give them the resources that they need, therefore we can be able to have much more better systems within the innovation of hydroponics, within the technologies of hydroponics, and we were able to be able to feed the country with the food that we're growing within these small spaces.
Zandile Khumalo is the 3rd child among 4 children and studied industrial chemistry at the Vaal University of Technology near Johannesburg. Armed with her big dreams, hopes for investment and determination to expand and create employment, she says the plan is to conquer all provinces in South Africa, one shopping mall rooftop at a time.
Well, this is where we say goodbye till next time. But remember, our top stories are never far away. You can catch them on channelstv.com. Thank you so much for watching the program. I'm Tenyola Shoboale. Bye for now.